Francis Scott Key and the Star-Spangled Banner by Leanna Bodish, illustrated by Harry Berman. All across the United States of America, people sing a song called the Star-Spangled Banner. They sing it at the beginning of a baseball game. They sing it at school. The Star-Spangled Banner is the national anthem of the United States of America. The Star-Spangled Banner was written in 1814 by Francis Scott Key. He was a lawyer from the state of Maryland. He also liked to write poems. In 1814, the United States was fighting a war against the British. It was called the War of 1812. The United States was losing the war. The British had burned the Capitol building and the President's house in Washington, D.C. President James Madison and his wife, Dolly, had left the city. British ships were on their way to attack the city of Baltimore. An American named Dr. William Beans was a prisoner on one of the British ships. Dr. Beans was friends with Francis Scott Key. Francis went out to the British ships. He wanted the British to let Dr. Beans go. Francis showed them letters written by British soldiers. These soldiers had been hurt in battles. Now they were prisoners of the American army. These letters were about Dr. Beans. The soldiers were thanking Dr. Beans for taking care of them. The British agreed to let Dr. Beans and Francis go, but not until after the attack on Baltimore. They did not want Dr. Beans and Francis to warn the American army about the attack. On September 13, 1814, the British attacked Fort Mchenry. The fort is just outside of Baltimore. Francis and Dr. Beans had to watch the battle from a small ship. They could see the huge American flag flying over the fort. All day long, the British bombed Fort McHenry. The soldiers at the fort fired back. That night, rockets lit up the sky. There was a lot of noise. Francis watched from the ship. Who was winning? He just couldn't tell. Early on the morning of September 14th, the battle stopped. It got very quiet. Francis watched the sun come up. The smoke cleared. Francis saw a flag flying on the fort. Whose flag was it? It was the United States flag. The Americans had won the battle. Francis was very happy. He wrote a poem about what he saw and what he felt. The poem fit the music of a song he knew. Francis and Dr. Beans were set free. They went back to Baltimore. Francis's poem was printed in the newspaper in Baltimore. Soon everyone was singing it. They called it the Star-Spangled Banner. Defense of Fort McHenry, the Star-Spangled Banner. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. In 1931, Congress made the Star-Spangled Banner the United States national anthem. Today, people who visit Fort McHenry can see a copy of the Star-Spangled Banner in Francis Scott Key's handwriting.